Hey everybody, welcome back to Casual Fridays with Punching Back with George Papadopoulos. This is episode 2. We're going to be talking a lot about some of these very interesting, weird, bizarre, funny stories that came out over the last week with producer Max over here. And we're just going to have a great time, and we're going to be having a lot of guests actually moving forward. As of right now, we're going to be focusing on my producer and I, but we have a lot of guests in tow moving forward, so stay tuned for that. So Max, what do we got going on this week? What happened this week, Dad?
So I got a list of fun stories to talk about. The first one is from Reason.com, and the title is "Liberal White Women Are Hiring Sarah Rao to Tell Them They're Racist. The Cost, $2,500 per dinner." So I don't know if you saw this, but there's an insane woman on Twitter who goes by the name Sarah Rao, and she just calls white people names nonstop.
Do you hate white people?
No.
Have you given up on white people?
I hate white supremacy. I do not hate white people.
Those are fair questions to ask given what you see here, a single tweet from Sarah Rao about an op-ed titled, "Should I Give Up on White People?"
All I did was retweet it and say short and long answer, yes.
She's just very angry and belligerent, but apparently she figured out a way to make $2,500 a person off of it and probably get a free dinner as well. So I guess she's a genius.
Hey, it's all about the hustle.
Yeah.
And if you could hustle morons to pay you $2,500 to make fun of them she's like a nobody.
Right.
I mean, I looked her up on Twitter, and, she would come up in my feed just because she would just say just very bizarre, random things.
Exactly. Yeah, me too.
About just hating just everybody who's not her.
Right.
And if you could hustle stupid people to pay you $2,500 to make fun of them and get a free dinner out of it, why not? That's what makes this country so amazing. And I guess apparently she's a hardcore socialist, but she seems to be a very entrepreneurial type of person too, because she's going out there and making her bucks.
Well, exactly. I found it so interesting because I've seen it before where these people like Sarah who nonstop criticize, capitalism or whatever, are the most enterprising Americans. I mean, there was another university professor who criticized capitalism, but she's obviously tenured and would brag about how she's making $100,000 a year and there's nothing we can do about it. Like, God bless them. They figured something out. I just think it's ironic that they're raging against the machine while making a bunch of money.
Why is it always the rich who want socialism? Because they're not going to lose their hold on power, because if you're a billionaire and you have to pay some taxes, you're still going to have millions and millions of dollars. But the person starting off in life in a socialist system is never going to attain any prosperity of that magnitude.
Right.
So you will always have the ruling class that dictates.
It's almost like they kind of, clawed their way to the top and now they want to pull the ladder up for the next generation.
That's exactly what it is. I've always thought the same thing. And this person, I think, fits into that kind of mold.
Yeah.
You are just basically a hypocrite. You say one thing, but then you're making money off the people that you despise. She hates white people.
Right.
Apparently. Unless it's all a joke or
Yeah.
I don't know if it is or not, but
no, she's
caught my attention.
She's serious. I've seen her on my Twitter account also pop up. She just says like the most outlandish, and we'll link to a few of the craziest ones in the video. But yeah, I just think it's funny that they're making money, and I have no problem with them trying to do that.
Hey, I have no money I have no problem with that either. I just wouldn't pay $2,500 for anything.
I know. Who are these? Let's get one of these women on the show to describe a dinner or something.
The psychology behind it.
All right. So the next clip that I wanted to play is, our favorite Native American senator, Pocahontas. So
what has happened to Pocahontas?
So here's the clip. I'm gonna play it right now. So she's getting out of a private plane. She sees the camera and immediately hides behind her staffer. Like a pro. She hides like a pro. I mean, she disappears. If you're listening to us, definitely try and check out the YouTube video, which shows the clip that we're referring to right now. But
we're living in hypocrite central, man.
Exactly.
We just talked about one hypocrite. We have another one talking about the Green Deal, anti-oil, energy, fracking, and what is she doing? Not only is she not flying economy, forget even flying. She's not taking a bus around the country because, when you have a lot of money in a campaign,
I thought we have 10 years left, right, before the world ends, and we got to get off oil in the next 15 minutes.
That, and then she's flying a private plane.
Right.
And she knows it's wrong, and it goes against her message. So what does she do? She goes and hides behind her staffer as if the camera can't recognize her.
Right.
And I've said this before, I really thought Warren had a chance at the nomination, but and we talked about it during last episode too, in our Casual Fridays, regarding the student debt. She's coming increasingly unhinged and disconnected. I don't know what's happened to her. Something's going on with her.
She seems to crumble when
Something's going
when
on.
the spotlight, when someone asks her a tough question, or when someone catches her coming out of a private plane. She just crumbles into the background and just never is able to state her position and combat whatever it is that is coming at her. So yeah, I guess that is a good way to describe kind of this episode. Another hypocrite. We got another presidential candidate clip. You ready for this one?
Let's see it. We are in that cycle. Let's hold them accountable.
Where's my ice cream? Ah, thank you. Big gay ice cream is the best.
I'm not even going to say who it is first because you probably could recognize him by his voice, but that's Mini Mike Bloomberg. Just another oligarch, billionaire who bought his way onto the debate stage of the DNC.
He's so uncharismatic. He's also just a goofball. Big gay. What is there a story behind this big gay ice cream thing? Like, why is he? Is it a flavor? I don't even know.
But he clearly does not eat big gay ice cream on a daily basis because, first of all, if you actually watch the clip, he doesn't even know how to put the spoon into the containers.
Do you know what that clip reminds me of? Do you remember the Hillary Clinton clip from 2015 where she's in Cedar Rapids and she goes, "I'm just chilling in Cedar Rapids"?
Or was that the hot sauce one too, where she says she carries hot sauce wherever she goes?
It's just a typical politician trying to pander.
Dude, you have to be authentic in today's political world. I mean, you're always going to get people that love you and hate you, but you have to be authentic. You have to believe in what you're talking about.
Do you remember this clip?
Clinton is not carrying hot sauce in her purse.
Right.
And Bloomberg is not eating big gay ice cream weekly. So why post an ad about something you don't do? It makes you look like a moron.
Exactly.
I'm just chilling in Cedar Rapids.
Hey, one thing about me, and that's something people, whether you love me or you hate me or you love people that I associate with, I'm real. I'm not acting like something I'm not. I have opinions that don't necessarily back up even, the president or his team. I have my own opinion. That's always how I'm going to be. And that's what I think our viewers appreciate. But when you see these types of candidates running for the highest office in our country who are just so disconnected and aloof to the average person, I mean, who are they really representing? Because it's not the voters, I'll tell you that much, man.
What's something that you always carry with you?
Hot sauce.
Really?
Yeah.
Look, I love my Louisiana hot sauce. Trust, I put on my eggs every morning, but I'm not going to go around to stand out and act like I'm hip to say that. It either is going to come off like somebody legitimately uses Louisiana hot sauce on their eggs like I do without me having to say it, or you're going to have Hillary Clinton going on some radio show and saying that she doesn't go anywhere without hot sauce.
It's crazy that people don't understand that is just so transparent, and people that's why, the main reason why Trump won is because he doesn't do things like that. He's just not trying to pander and be your typical politician.
You know who else was awkward? Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
She was really awkward. And I thought that even before that Tulsi Gabbard debate with her, where Tulsi basically said, well, look, why would you vote for Kamala when she's going around locking up minorities for nonviolent drug charges? She made her life on that. That's who you want as president. But before even that, she would go on radio shows and lie about listening to Tupac or smoking weed, and then people were like, wait a minute, that song wasn't even out when you were in school, or what do you, and they would just always catch her in these lies and this paradox. And, it just doomed her very
Yeah,
quickly.
it's just complete opportunists. Will say anything that she thinks the crowd wants to hear. Really no convictions or, principles of her own.
Well, Trump is authentic in his way.
Right.
Like I always said, I don't care if you love somebody or hate them. As long as they're authentic, you know where they stand.
Mhm.
And he's authentic, and people respect that.
Exactly. This next clip is not super funny, but I think, it kind of made the rounds the last couple of days and people were talking about it. It was a Pete Buttigieg. I don't even know. How do you say this guy's name? Buttigieg? Buttigieg? Or Buttigieg, right? What does he say? Pete Buttigieg. So a precinct captain of his was in rural Iowa responding to a caucus goer who was flipping out upon learning that Pete has a same-sex partner. It was kind of an interesting clip, and I'll get your reaction to it.
In the Bible that a man should marry a woman then.
Well, I totally respect your viewpoint on this. I so totally do. But I think that we were not around.
How come this has never been brought out before?
It's common knowledge.
I never heard it.
We can talk to someone if you need to talk to them about this. I don't know the rules on this or not, but I guess what I would like you to just dig deep inside and think, like, should it matter if it's a woman or if it's a man or if they're heterosexual or homosexual if you believe in what they say? That's my question.
It all just went right down the toilet, is where it all just went.
And that's, you have a total right to your opinion, and I am not trying to tell you to think otherwise, but we'll ask what they want us to do. But I just ask you to look inside your heart, because you sound like a Christian woman to me, and I'm a Christian woman, and my God wants me to love everybody. I do, yep. I do.
So you must not believe it then if you think it's okay for somebody to be married to a same-sex person.
No, I think we're just interpreting it different, and that's okay, because everybody gets to have their own beliefs. But what I teach my son is that love is love.
That was a really interesting clip, and I know we're on the topic of hypocrites, but that wasn't a hypocrite. That was an interesting exchange of a woman not being fully informed about the candidate that she's voting for, which that alone is a problem. And the reason I say that is because Buttigieg, he's very openly gay, and his husband and he were actually on the cover of Time magazine about their marriage. So I don't understand how that could be something that a voter for him would not know. It's kind of odd that she wouldn't understand that unless she was very just ill-informed and didn't understand that. With that said, I don't think it was right. I mean, she's obviously free to express her own opinion, but in my opinion, I think in 2020, we have to look beyond skin color, religion, sexual orientation when we're voting for candidates. I think if it's the right man or woman who is up for the job, we should just look past that, look at their values, their policies, and whether we really feel that they represent us. In this case, this Christian woman apparently doesn't believe that a gay man represents her, even though he did up until she learned about that. I don't know what to think about it. It's a difficult thing. I personally think that people should be allowed to marry whoever they want. I don't think anybody should tell you how to live your private life or to dictate who you love or who you marry and who you don't. But that's my personal belief. So we'll see if that really affects Pete down the line. I don't know if they always said, is America ready for a black president? But then Barack Obama was elected. Is America ready for a woman president? And Hillary Clinton won the nomination. She just was a horrible candidate. But I think America is actually ready for anything. Mm-hmm. That's my belief. I don't think we're living in an era where America is this homogenous state where, a white man works and then the women sit at home and the minorities don't have a voice, because they do. And the country's changing, and And, gay rights are very prominent today. They have their full rights, like everybody else in America does. So I don't think that should preclude somebody from holding the highest office, but that's my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think it was interesting for a number of ways. I think it just I agree with you that it shouldn't matter who you marry, or if you're gay or straight. It should just matter about kind of what you're advocating for and what you're running on. I thought it was an interesting clip because the woman kind of the religious woman. We talked about this a little bit before, but oftentimes some religious people will just pick and choose which parts of the Bible they think are the most important and must be followed, and if they're not followed, then it's a huge problem. And I think the woman showed a lot of patience with her, and it's kind of an interesting divide in the country between two perspectives.
But that's that's the right of a voter to vote in somebody that represents them.
Right.
Now, I don't know what the situation is with being able to take back your vote the way she asked. That's actually something interesting because we are living in an era of disinformation too. There's a lot of fake news out there. We all know it. I've been the victim of a lot of fake news myself. So how getting the truth out about candidates versus fake news about them impacts people's minds when they are casting ballots, that's very important. And who knows? I don't, like I said, look, I follow politics daily, but so I'm very well informed of what's going on. So I, of course, knew he was openly gay, but there's no way I would actually cast a vote for somebody I didn't know everything about.
Mm-hmm.
And there was nothing hidden about him being gay. So I don't know. I think the woman that was talking to her presented her case very well. She said, look, he's a human just like everybody else. Clearly you like something about him to cast your vote for him, and I don't think his sexual orientation or who he loves should prevent you from continuing your support. And they left it at that, and I think that was the right call.
Yep. All right, the next kind of interesting story this week was a headline that says, and I'll put it up on the screen if you're watching. It says, new, Sanders and AOC bill would outlaw fracking by 2025. And I thought the interesting thing was kind of the response that got from Representative Crenshaw, who said, this will increase emissions and make Russia an energy superpower. They don't understand that by fracking was this incredible technological revolution in the energy business over the last 15 years or so. And it allowed us to produce energy much more cleanly and efficiently. And it's so funny that kind of AOC and Bernie have this mentality that they want to just get rid of carbon emissions at all cost. It's kind of like taking a flamethrower to a surgery. They don't realize that what they're going to do is going to completely contradict not only their goals for a green future, but it's also going to have all these other effects, like making Russia this new global superpower because they'll be the ones offering energy to all the other countries. It kind of is exemplary of the left not really thinking through their positions.
I agree with you. And somebody, because I came from the energy world, that's how I got involved in politics, and then how I ended up joining these presidential campaigns. So I understand the power and the transformative power of the fracking industry in America and around the world for U.S. interests around the world. Namely, two things. First of all, natural gas is a clean technology, and it's a transition fuel into the future if we decide to go down wind, solar, and water, which clearly the United States economy is not ready for today. We're obviously transitioning away from oil, and we're moving into cleaner fuel like natural gas, which fracking ends up extracting and produces and then exports. That's the first thing. It helps jobs creation. It provides billions of dollars in revenues for the American economy. And third, it helps U.S. allies abroad wean themselves off Russian influence. Today, 40% of Russia's budget is based on exporting natural gas. and oil. And the primary market for that oil and natural gas is Europe, where NATO is situated. And when President Trump is taking a lot of heat for having this great relationship with Russia, I don't understand how he could possibly be this pro-Russia leader when he's actually promoting the export of gas from America to Europe to help destabilize the Russian economy. Russia doesn't really export much else except weapons and energy. They're a huge energy exporter and a huge weapons exporter. If you cut at least one of those two industries out, you're going to be in a conflict with them. So when AOC says we should just prevent fracking, you're actually buying right into the Russian propaganda there.
Yeah. So the last kind of topic that I wanted to touch on, and there's a couple of clips related to this, is free speech, specifically free speech on the internet.
Big topic.
Yeah, and so I'm going to play a clip from Zuckerberg, but first I actually want to play a clip from Canada. Check this out.
How will this work? How are you going to regulate websites? How are you going to register all that? Do you buy these recommendations?
Well, one of the recommendations, so you're talking about a couple of different things here, but as far as the licensing is concerned, is if you're a distributor of content in Canada, and obviously, you know, if you're a very small media organization, the requirement probably wouldn't be the same as if you're Facebook or Google, so there would have to be some proportionality embedded into this, but we would ask that they have a license. Yes.
So basically a Trudeau cabinet minister is saying that websites are going to now require a government license.
That's government infringing upon your freedom of speech. And if the government can tell you what to say and how to think and even how to eat, like people like Mike Bloomberg wants, what slippery slope does that lead us down as a country? What happens to the First Amendment? If you are not allowed to say what you want, and we have specific provisions in our Constitution about free speech. For example, you cannot incite a riot with your speech, and you can't call fire, for example, in a theater that would cause panic. So we have provisions that limit what can and cannot be said. But in this case, what does that go towards the political discourse in our country and around the world? If you talk openly in support for a candidate that the big tech companies don't want in office, you're going to be censored. I know our podcast is being censored on Twitter, and that's very disturbing to me. And I'm probably not the only one. And is it only Twitter? And I know that people like Mark Zuckerberg are coming under increasing pressure to censor various opinion makers or outlets and censor their ability to even use Facebook as a major platform to get their ideas out. And I think Zuckerberg actually recently had something to say about that. What do you have to say?
Yeah, so this is the second clip, and Zuckerberg was recently at a conference, I think this was maybe like 2 or 3 days ago, called the Silicon Slopes Conference in Utah. And he had some pretty interesting things to say about free speech.
If you're not kind of out there standing for things that people care about, then it's not possible for people to feel that strongly about what you're doing. But so now, I've tried to change our approach more recently. I went out and in Georgetown last year, I gave this speech around our principles around free expression. And, that's just one of the areas that I really feel like is under attack right now. Increasingly, we're getting called to censor a lot of different kinds of content that makes me really uncomfortable. I think that it kind of feels like the list of things that you're not allowed to say socially keeps on growing. And I'm not really okay with that. I mean, clearly, there are definitely a lot of bad things that we need to go do our job and help get rid of. Terrorism, child exploitation, incitement to violence, things that are going to cause imminent physical harm. And we invest a ton in this. I mean, we have 35,000 people working on content and safety. Our budget on safety at this point is bigger than the whole revenue of our company was when we went public in 2012. And we're a pretty big company then. There were like 1 billion people using our services. So we're focusing a lot on that. But at some point, I just felt like, all right, we got to stand up and say, no, we're going to stand for free expression. And yeah, we're going to take down the content that's really harmful. But the line needs to be held at some point. And I think that this is just, I think it's unfortunate that this is such a controversial thing. When I got started in 2004, it wasn't.
So that's Zuckerberg. kind of standing up for free expression. And I think it's super interesting. I also think, as he said in 2004, this wasn't controversial. And you remember in 2008 when Obama used Facebook to get the message out, he was a genius. And now in 2016, Trump uses Facebook to get the message out, and it's all Russia, 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 or he's subverting democracy.
That's exactly right. Why was it not an issue when it first came out, and
Right.
why wasn't it an issue when President Obama was using it? A lot of people didn't agree with him. Some did, some didn't. But
Right.
why was he able to use these platforms freely without interference?
Right. And I guess the Republicans figured out how to use Twitter and Facebook in sometime between 2008 and 2016. And, we can't have that.
This
according to-
nonsense about Russia interfering in the election, which in my opinion, I don't even know how they could have interfered in the election, quite frankly. And I don't think them. What did Zuckerberg himself testify? That the Russians bought like $100,000 in ads on Facebook?
It's something unbelievable like that. You'd think that Russia spent billions of dollars on ads pushing fake news on Facebook, but it was something minuscule. I think it was $200,000 on Facebook ads. By the way, half of which were purchased after the election, and then half of which were for Bernie Sanders. So they did.
Yeah.
They wanted to push right wing and they wanted to push left wing to kind of, increase divisiveness. But we're talking about a monetary figure so low, it is almost laughable.
And Warren actually came out as a candidate running for the presidency's office. And she said, I want censorship for disinformation. I want people to possibly go to jail if they spread quote unquote disinformation. Who are you to say what's disinformation? This is a very important point. It was disinformation what the media propagated and people like Adam Schiff propagated for 2 years versus what I have been saying, which we now know is the truth. So would I have gone to jail under Elizabeth Warren's ruling that she wants to impose based on me going out against the narrative at the time with a new story? Is it who establishes the narrative and who establishes the story, especially in a case like the Russia collusion hoax and the impeachment sham and probably other scandals that are going to come moving forward? That's the real question, because moving forward, a president, forget President Trump for a second, even though he was fighting against this I don't know what you want to call it, frame job against him, what would happen to the next president? Oh, he's spreading disinformation because he's fighting back? That's a dangerous precedent. I'm worried about that, and I hope people start taking notice of what's going on. Because these are serious people talking about a very serious matter.
It's also, you talk about Elizabeth Warren advocating for those crazy, in my opinion, policies. It reminds me of during the debate when Kamala Harris wanted to kick Trump off of Twitter. And then she turned to Elizabeth Warren during the debate and she says, don't you want to, will you join me in advocating for removing the president of the United States from Twitter? And Elizabeth Warren, at that time, she changes every day. But at that time, she said, no, I'm not going to advocate for Trump getting kicked off Twitter. But you know what? Maybe now she would advocate for it. It's just amazing that they want to control, they so badly want to control speech on the internet.
And they want to control who you vote for and the future of the country. Because if you're able to effectively suppress people's ideas from getting out there, imagine what that means. And that's what's happening here.
So Claire asks, what do you think about Trump's foreign policy with Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, and Iran? Do you think Iran's involvement in Latin America ties them together?
So thanks a lot for that question, Claire. So the president clearly has a different foreign policy regarding these three countries. First of all, Venezuela is in Latin America, and Saudi and Iran are in the Middle East. With that said, Iran does have a heavy military and intelligence presence in Venezuela. They are backing the Maduro regime in Venezuela, and their cells, namely Hezbollah, are operating on Venezuelan soil to this day, whether it's through the narco trade that helps finance their operations or just they're causing chaos the way they are. That's what's going on. So the president clearly wants to choke off Iran, whether it's through sanctions, but also through exerting military muscle. He did that by killing Soleimani. He's done that by sending U.S. military personnel to the Persian Gulf and into the Middle East itself, bolstering ties to Israel and Saudi Arabia, which are actually working in tandem for the first time ever to hedge against a rising Iran. So Iran today is the mothership of the global terrorist network. They are financing insurrections around the entire world, as we've mentioned in previous episodes, namely the Libya attack that killed Ambassador Christopher Stevens and the blood of 600 American servicemen. So the president is absolutely right to keep Venezuela on the hot seat. It was a great move to bring Venezuela's opposition leader to the State of the Union yesterday. And just to continue to highlight the illegitimacy of the Maduro regime and all of the nefarious behavior of Iran and their purpose for backing that dictatorship in Venezuela. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in for Casual Fridays with producer Max and I. Make sure you send me any questions you have so that I answer them during next week's show. And if you have any recommendations for our first guest or future guest, let me know. This is all about you. This is all about my viewers and supporters. So I want to make sure that you get the people you want on this show and to have all of your answers, all of your questions answered. So thanks so much again, and tune in next week. Thanks.